Growing up, I, Cameron, lived in the shadow of my star older sister, Lily. Our house was a constant hub of activity, overflowing with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, all drawn to my mom's legendary barbecue and Lily's captivating performances. Our backyard was her stage, the manicured lawn and majestic oak tree providing a picturesque backdrop. Dad manned the grill, the aroma of char-grilled meat permeating the air, while Mom ensured everyone was refreshed. Invariably, Aunt Marge's voice would pierce the chatter. "Lily, sweetie, why don't you sing us a song?" All eyes would immediately shift to my sister. Lily, with a playful glint in her eye and bouncing golden curls, would dramatically clear her throat before launching into a passionate rendition of My Heart Will Go On, channeling her inner Celine Dion. The adults would erupt in applause, as if at a sold-out concert, while Mom and Dad beamed with pride, Dad often wiping away a tear. Meanwhile, I tried to disappear into the shrubbery. I longed to participate, but my singing voice resembled a strangled cat, and poetry recitations left me tongue-tied and blushing. I overheard whispers from relatives. "He's so different from his sister." The disparity wasn't limited to relatives. Mom and Dad made it abundantly clear who the family star was. Lily was chauffeured to dance, singing, and art classes, while I was left to my own devices. Not that I complained. I found solace in the dusty books lining our shelves. My only confidant was Great Aunt Maggie. She'd discover me engrossed in a book, hidden behind the garage, or perched in the treehouse. "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" she'd inquire, settling beside me. "Just exploring ancient Egypt," I'd reply, displaying the book cover. Maggie would nod, her eyes twinkling. "You've got a sharp mind, young man. Never forget that." Those moments with the Maggie were a balm to my spirit. She accepted me for who I was, the quiet, bookish boy who preferred the company of words to boisterous family gatherings. However, Maggie's affirmations couldn't fully shield me from the sting of being overlooked. Each time Lily mastered a new skill or received an award, my parents showered her with praise and gifts, new clothes, the latest gadgets. I received hand-me-downs and exasperated sighs. School became my refuge. While not popular, I thrived academically. I wasn't a passive learner. I craved understanding. "Mrs. Thompson," I'd ask after class, "could you clarify mitosis?" I didn't quite grasp it. She'd happily oblige, impressed by my inquisitiveness. If a teacher was unavailable, I'd request book recommendations, my backpack perpetually overflowing with reading material. I devoured those books, determined to excel in every subject. By high school, I was at the top of my class, finally excelling at something. I even made a few like-minded friends who appreciated my introverted nature. As graduation approached, our house transformed into Lily Central, Mom tirelessly assisting with her advertising and PR portfolio for a prestigious university. "Honey, this campaign is brilliant," Mom would exclaim, admiring Lily's work. "You're so talented." I'd roll my eyes and retreat to my room, immersing myself in my studies. One evening, amidst another family dinner dedicated to Lily's college plans, something snapped. "I'm going to college too," I blurted out. "I want to study business management." A stunned silence descended, followed by uproarious laughter. "Sweetie," Mom said, wiping away tears of mirth, "we can't afford that. You'll need to get a job. You're just not as gifted as your sister." I felt a stinging humiliation. "But I'm the top student," I stammered, my face burning. "I have straight A's." I retrieved my report card, slamming it on the table. They examined it, their eyes widening in disbelief. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad mumbled, scratching his head. "When did this happen?" "It's been happening for years," I retorted, "but none of you noticed." Mom, at least, appeared ashamed. "Cameron, we had no idea." Dad interrupted. "Look, it doesn't matter. We spent all our savings on Lily's education. There's nothing left for you. You'll work at my cousin Frank's restaurant." I turned and fled, ignoring their pleas, sprinting upstairs to my room. The door slammed against the frame with a force that rattled the walls. I crumbled onto my bed, sobs racking my entire being. A hard knot formed in my stomach, my hands clenching into tight fists. Fine, I thought, a cold resolve settling over me. If they won't help me, I'll find another way. I'll show them what Cameron is capable of. The following months passed in a whirlwind. Lily left for college, her departure a flurry of tearful farewells and proud embraces from our parents. Meanwhile, I buried myself in my studies, driven by a newfound determination to graduate at the top of my class. Great Aunt Maggie's cozy house became my sanctuary, a refuge from the simmering tension at home. One afternoon, as we sipped tea in her sunlit kitchen, she asked the question I'd been dreading. "Cameron," she began, her kind eyes searching mine, "what are your plans after graduation?" I stared into my teacup, fighting back the sting of tears. I don't know, Aunt Maggie. Mom and Dad say there's no money left for my college after paying for Lily's. A moment of silence hung in the air before Maggie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Cameron, dear," she said, "I have some savings. I want you to have them for college. You're brilliant, and I'll be damned if I let that mind go to waste." Her words washed over me, a tidal wave of relief and gratitude. Tears streamed down my face as the realization hit me. My dreams weren't dead. "Thank you," I sobbed, hugging her tightly. "Thank you so much, Aunt Maggie." Months melted away, and soon I was walking across the graduation stage, diploma in hand. I spotted Aunt Maggie beaming at me from the crowd. My parents were there too, looking proud but uncomfortable. That evening, as I pored over college brochures, Mom entered the room, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Cameron?" "Honey," she began, "your father's cousin, Frank, called. He has a waiting job for you at his restaurant." "Isn't that wonderful?" Taking a deep breath, I replied, "Actually, Mom, I won't need that job. I'm going to college." Dad appeared in the doorway, his brow furrowed. "And how, pray tell, do you plan to pay for that?" "Aunt Maggie is helping me," I stated, my chin held high. "She's giving me her savings for tuition." The stunned silence that followed was almost comical. Then Dad's face flushed with anger. "Absolutely not," he roared. "If Maggie has money to spare, it should go to Lily. She needs a car for her advertising job after she graduates next year." I couldn't believe my ears. "Are you serious?" I retorted. "This is my chance to get an education, to build a future for myself." "Don't be selfish, Cameron," Mom chimed in. "Your sister needs that money more than you do." "No," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "This is my money now, and I'm using it for college. End of discussion." Life at home became unbearable after that. My parents either ignored me completely or lashed out over the smallest things. The constant tension was suffocating. After one particularly brutal argument, I called Aunt Maggie in tears, recounting the whole ordeal. "Pack your bags, sweetheart," she said without hesitation. "You're moving in with me." The next day, I loaded my belongings into a cab and left, watching my childhood home recede in the rearview mirror. Pulling up to Aunt Maggie's house, I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders. The summer was a blur of preparation, and soon I found myself on the campus of State University. Thanks to my excellent grades and Aunt Maggie's generosity, I was enrolled in the management program I'd always dreamed of. My first day of classes was exhilarating. Sitting in my Introduction to Business lecture, absorbing every word, I thought, I made it. I'm really here. Meanwhile, Lily was starting her senior year at her prestigious college. I hadn't heard much from her or my parents since moving out, but I tried not to dwell on it. I was too busy embracing my newfound freedom and the excitement of college life. A month into the semester, Aunt Maggie called. "Cameron, dear," she said hesitantly, "I think you should sit down for this." My heart pounded as she relayed the family drama I'd missed. Lily had dropped out of college and was pregnant. "Oh, don't worry," Lily had apparently said flippantly. "The baby's father is rich. We're getting married soon." But the story didn't end there. Lily's boyfriend wasn't as committed as she believed. When he discovered she'd been involved with his friend as well, chaos erupted. Now they didn't even know who the father was. Aunt Maggie sighed. I sat there, stunned, trying to process it all. A part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction that the golden child had fallen, but mostly I just felt sadness for Lily and the mess she'd created. The saga continued. Aunt Maggie kept me updated on the gossip from family gatherings I no longer attended. When Lily's baby was born, a DNA test. The DNA test confirmed Lily's boyfriend was the father, but instead of a fairy tale wedding, he only offered child support. The final blow came when Lily, desperate for work, accepted a waitress position at Uncle Frank's restaurant, the very job my parents had tried to force on me. Hanging up the phone with Aunt Maggie, a whirlwind of emotions swept over me. A petty part of me wanted to gloat, but mostly I felt profound gratitude for how far I'd come. Years blurred into a cycle of lectures, exams, and late-night study sessions. Before I knew it, I was graduating, my hard-earned management degree clutched tightly in my hand. Aunt Maggie beamed at me from the crowd, tears of pride glistening in her eyes. Thanks to my excellent grades and strong recommendations, I landed a management position at the Gilded Fork, one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. The salary was beyond my wildest dreams, and for the first time, I felt truly successful. My first paycheck burned a hole in my pocket. I bought Aunt Maggie the latest smartphone. Her face lit up as she turned the sleek device over in her hands. "Oh, Cameron," she gasped, "this is too much." "Not at all," I grinned, pulling out my own phone. "Now, let me show you how to use it." I spent the next few weeks teaching her social media. She embraced it wholeheartedly, especially Facebook's video feature. Her page filled with clips of her garden, her cat, and her famous apple pie in various stages of creation. I watched her videos during lunch breaks, always leaving a comment or a like. It was our way of staying connected despite my busy schedule. One day, my phone buzzed during the dinner rush. I was surprised to see my mother's name. We hadn't spoken in years. "Cameron," her voice hesitant, we were hoping you might come over to talk." After a long pause, I agreed. That Sunday, I stood on my childhood home's porch, hand hovering over the doorbell. The door swung open before I could ring it. "Cameron." My mother pulled me into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetie, it's so good to see you." Inside, I found my father, Lily, and a toddler I assumed was my niece. The atmosphere was tense, but not hostile. "You look good, kiddo," Dad said, his voice gruff but warm. "We hear you're doing well for yourself." I nodded cautiously. "I am. I'm a manager at the Gilded Fork now." Their eyes widened. Mom cleared her throat. That's wonderful, dear. Actually, that's part of why we wanted to talk to you." Over the next hour, they apologized for their past treatment, admitting they'd been wrong to dismiss my potential. Then came the real reason for their visit. "Cameron," Mom said, glancing at Lily, "we were hoping—" "Well, we were wondering if you could help Lily get a job at your restaurant." I looked at my sister bouncing her daughter on her knee. She avoided my gaze. "I'll see what I can do," I said finally. "No promises, but I'll ask." True to my word, I spoke to Mr. Reeves, the restaurant owner, about Lily. To my surprise, he agreed to give her a chance as an administrator. Lily started the following week. I watched her closely, half expecting her to fail or create drama. But she excelled. She was punctual, efficient, and charmed the customers. As the weeks passed, I found myself relaxing around her. We weren't best friends, but we developed a cordial working relationship. Just when I thought life had settled, the universe threw me a curveball, a positive one. Mr. Reeves called me into his office. My heart raced, fearing I'd done something wrong. Instead, he grinned. "Cameron," he said, "how would you like to help me expand the business?" Soon, I was overseeing the opening of 3 new restaurants. My days were a whirlwind of staff meetings, menu tastings, and number crunching. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and everything I'd ever wanted. The promotion came with a significant raise, and suddenly I had more money than I knew what to do with. That's when the calls from my parents started. At first, small requests. "The roof is leaking," Mom would say hesitantly. "We were wondering if you might be able to help out a little." It felt surprisingly good to say yes, to solve their problems with a simple transfer of funds. It started with the roof, then a new water heater, and soon I was funding a complete home renovation. As their financial situation improved, thanks to my monthly allowance, the infamous family parties resumed, but this time things were different. "Have you heard about Cameron's latest project?" Mom would gush to relatives. "He's opening a new restaurant downtown. We're so proud of him." I'd catch Lily's eye across the room, and she'd offer a small smile. She was thriving too, having been promoted to head administrator. At the Gilded Fork, Lily thrived as head administrator. "My girls," Dad would say, beaming, an arm around each of us, both of them making their old man proud. A part of me wanted to remind them of their past treatment, but a larger part basked in their approval, something I'd longed for. Driving home that night, contentment washed over me. I had everything I'd ever wanted: career success and my family's love and appreciation. I was the golden child now, but better. I was my own man, standing on my own 2 feet. My world shattered one lazy Sunday afternoon. Scrolling through Facebook, I saw Aunt Maggie had posted a new video from a family gathering I'd missed due to work. Smiling, I clicked play, expecting laughter and merriment. Instead, my blood ran cold. There, in living color, were my parents, faces flushed with alcohol and self-righteousness. Mom gesticulated wildly, her voice slurred but unmistakable. And Cameron, that ungrateful little freeloader, she was saying, "He barely gives us anything. We're not made of money, you know." Dad chimed in, face red. "That's right. We're doing just fine thanks to our Lily. She's the one keeping that fancy restaurant afloat. Cameron just rides on her coattails." The video continued with relatives nodding in agreement, some adding their own criticisms. Lily sat in the corner, looking uncomfortable but not contradicting them. Stunned, I replayed the video, rereading the comments. How could they, after everything I'd done, all the money I'd given them? With shaking hands, I scrolled down to the comments. "Maggie, delete this video right now." My parents had written, "You had no right to post this. Take it down immediately." But Aunt Maggie's response brought tears to my eyes. "I don't know how to delete videos, and even if I did, I wouldn't. It's time everyone saw the truth about how you treat Cameron. He's the one supporting you, and this is how you repay his kindness? Shame on you both." I sat for hours, replaying the video, the betrayal cutting deep. Finally, I called Aunt Maggie. "Oh, Cameron, dear," she answered, her voice full of sympathy. "I take it you've seen the video." "Yeah," I choked out, my voice raw. "I can't believe it, Aunt Maggie. How could they?" Anger laced her voice. "They've always been like this, Cameron. You just haven't been around to see it. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but maybe it's for the best. You deserve the truth." We talked for hours, Maggie comforting me. As night fell, I made a decision. "I'm cutting them off," I told Aunt Maggie, my voice firm despite the pain. "No more money, no more help." They made their bed. Now they can lie in it. The following days were brutal. My phone buzzed constantly with messages and calls from my parents, but I couldn't answer. Their cruel words played on repeat in my mind. Finally, after a week of silence, I sent a brief text. "I've seen the video. I know what you really think of me. Don't contact me again. The money stops now. Their responses flooded in. At first, apologetic. Cameron, sweetie, we're so sorry. We didn't mean any of it. Please forgive us. But as my silence continued, their tone changed. We're your parents. You owe us. Each message twisted the knife deeper. But I stood firm. I'd given them countless chances. It was time to break the cycle. Surprisingly, Lily stayed out of it. At work, she remained the model employee. If she resented the loss of financial support, she didn't show it. I'm not taking sides, she told me one day. It's between you and them. I nodded, appreciating her neutrality, though part of me wished she'd defend me. But she had her own child to consider. As weeks turned into months, I leaned heavily on Aunt Maggie. Our Sunday video calls became my lifeline. She regaled me with stories of her garden and baking adventures, providing a much-needed dose of normalcy. You're doing the right thing, Cameron, she'd assure me. Don't let them manipulate you anymore. Other relatives reached out too. Cousin Sarah emailed, I saw the video. I think you're amazing, Cameron. What you've achieved, how you've helped everyone. You're an inspiration. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Uncle Bob called. Kid, I've watched you grow into an incredible man. Your parents are fools if they can't see how special you are. You've got family in me. These messages of support were a balm to my wounded spirit. I realized that while I might have lost my parents, I had gained a family who truly valued me. As the year drew to a close, Mr. Reeves summoned me to his office. I entered nervously, wondering if the family drama had impacted my work. Instead, he greeted me with a broad smile. Cameron, he announced, I'm retiring next year. I want you to take over as CEO of the restaurant group. I was speechless, completely stunned. Are you sure? I finally stammered. He nodded, his eyes twinkling. I've never been more certain of anything. You've earned this, Cameron. You're the reason this business has thrived. It's time you took the reins. Leaving his office, my head spun with the possibilities. A profound realization dawned on me. The boy who had been overlooked and underestimated had become a man who had surpassed all expectations, including his own.